Hello everyone. Let's head on to our first case. Case 1. Am I the bad person for asking my brother to pay to use the family cabin after he refused to help restore it? A few years ago, my 35M grandparents passed away and left behind a beautiful but very run-down lakeside cabin. It had been in our family for generations, but by the time it was passed down, it was in rough shape, the wood was rotting, the roof leaked, and the plumbing was ancient. My parents, not wanting the hassle, offered it to my younger brother, Matt, 30M, first, since he had always talked about how much he loved the place growing up. At first, Matt was excited, but when he saw the actual state of the cabin, he quickly changed his mind. The renovations would cost tens of thousands of dollars, and the upkeep was more than he was willing to commit to. He told my parents that he wasn't in a position to take on such a big project and that it was too much work for a vacation home. So they turned to me. I thought about it for a while, and even though I knew it would be a lot of work, I loved that cabin. I spent almost every summer there as a kid, fishing with my grandpa and roasting marshmallows with my cousins. It meant something to me. So I took it. The thing is, taking ownership wasn't just signing some papers, it was years of work and tens of thousands of dollars. I had to replace the roof, reinforce the foundation, fix the plumbing, and completely redo the deck, which was one bad storm away from collapsing. It became my after-work project, but it also became a major financial commitment. Every spare dollar I had went into fixing up that place. I've asked my family to help out many times, whether financially or physically with labor, but no one ever did. Fast forward to a few years later, and Matt reaches out saying he and his wife want to take their kids on a summer vacation and would love to use the cabin for a week. I told him sure, but he'd need to contribute $500 to cover utilities and general wear and tear. He flipped out. He said I was being greedy for charging family and that the grandparents wouldn't want the cabin to be a business. I reminded him that he had the chance to take ownership, and he chose not to because he didn't want the responsibility. Now that I've poured my time and money into making it a livable space, it's not fair for him to expect a free vacation just because we share blood. He argued that it's not like you're paying rent on it and you were going to be there anyway. But that's not the point. If I let him stay for free, where do I draw the line? Do I have to offer it to every cousin, uncle, or second cousin twice removed who wants a weekend getaway? If Matt contributes nothing but gets free access, doesn't that mean I'm basically paying for his vacation? Now our mom is involved, saying I should do the right thing because family helps family. I told her that Matt was offered the cabin first, and he said no because it was too much work. I had then asked for financial or physical help, and he also denied. He didn't want to deal with the responsibilities, he just wants the benefits now that I've taken on all the costs. Matt hasn't spoken to me since, and our mom keeps telling me I'm being unfair. Am I the bad person for expecting him to chip in, or is he just entitled? What do you guys think? Lay down your ruling in the comments section and let's move on to our next story. Case 2. Am I the bad person for kicking my mother-in-law out of our house after she refused to call our son by his name? My husband, 34M, and I, 31F, recently had our first child, a son we named Elijah. We put a lot of thought into his name, we loved the meaning, and it just felt right. My MIL, 62F, had no strong opinions about it at first. She didn't gush over it, but she also didn't object. Or so we thought. The first time she met Elijah at the hospital, she looked at him and said, "Oh little David, you're so perfect." I thought I misheard her, so I ignored it. But then she said it again. I asked her, "Who's David?" and she just smiled and said, "Oh, it just suits him better." I was too exhausted from labor to argue, but over the next few weeks, she kept calling him David, texting us things like "How's my little David doing today?" or "Give David a kiss for me." I told her, firmly, that his name is Elijah. She laughed and said, "Oh, I know. But I think he just feels like a David." Neither my husband nor I know anyone named David. It's not a family name. There's no sentimental reason behind it. It's just a completely random name she decided to call my child, despite us telling her not to. At first we tried to let it go, hoping she'd stop if we ignored it. But it only got worse. When we FaceTimed her, she'd coo at him saying, "Grandma loves you, David." She even started knitting a baby blanket with the name David embroidered on it. The final straw was when she came over for a family dinner and kept referring to him as David in front of everyone. My SIL asked, "Wait, why do you keep calling him David?" And MIL just laughed and said, "Because that's his name to me." That's when I lost it. I said, "No, his name is Elijah, and if you can't respect that, you don't need to be here." She rolled her eyes and tried to wave me off, but I wasn't having it. I told her to leave. She looked shocked, but she left without much of a fight. Now my husband is upset with me. He agrees that his mom was being weird and disrespectful, but he thinks kicking her out was too extreme and that I should have just let it go. MIL is now playing the victim, telling everyone that I'm keeping her grandson from her over a harmless nickname. Some family members think I overreacted. Others agree that her behavior was bizarre. I don't know, was I really in the wrong for putting my foot down? Am I the bad person? What do you guys think of this one? Let us know in the comments section and let's move on to our next story. Case 3. Am I the bad person for refusing to let my kids see my mother after she sold the home I paid for? For nearly 9 years, I lived in and paid for a home under the agreement that once it was paid off, my mother would transfer the title to me. The home was in her name, but I covered the mortgage, lot rent, and all expenses. I also put my own money into renovations and repairs like new flooring, light fixtures, refinishing cabinets, replacing appliances, and fixing the oven. My mom originally bought the home in 2015, planning to leave her husband. When she changed her mind about the divorce, she offered it to me, saying it was a great way to invest my money into something for my future. I agreed and moved in, believing I was working toward ownership. The roof ended her changing the terms. In 2022, my roof started leaking. I called my mom for advice, but she didn't know anyone who could do small repairs. My boyfriend at the time, who had roofing experience, helped me fix it, and I paid for all the materials. Later, she insisted on sending out someone she knew to check the roof. Since the home was in her name, I couldn't stop her. She then decided to have the entire roof replaced without my consent. When I asked about the cost, she brushed it off, saying, "Don't worry, God always provides." In early 2023, she suddenly demanded $3,000 for the roof, despite never discussing payment beforehand. I told her this felt unfair, since I never agreed to it. I offered to make monthly payments, but she was furious. Her final ultimatum. By early 2024, I was less than $3,500 away from fully paying off the home. I was ready to be done with all the drama. But then, in February 2024, my mom raised the roof cost by another $1,500, bringing it to $4,500, and added other random fees, telling me I had 1 week to pay over $20,000 or move out. I was stunned. I asked why, and all she said was, "The choice is yours to make, you just have to decide what path to take." No explanation, just an ultimatum. When I refused, she started making my life hell. In April 2024, she showed up unannounced and refused to leave until the police made her. At that point, I had no choice. I packed up my kids and moved out on May 1st, 2024. Not long after, she sold the home I had spent nearly a decade paying for, keeping all the money for herself. My family thinks I should move on. Now, my family says I'm the bad guy for cutting her off and keeping her grandkids away. But my kids want nothing to do with her. They were old enough to understand what happened and felt just as betrayed as I did. To make things worse, she has been showing up uninvited to my kids' events and causing scenes. I'm now looking into legal options to keep her away, as I don't want her forcing her way back into their lives. My family says I should just move on because it's not worth losing family over. But I can't just forget about all the money I put into that home. It's been almost a year, and I am now seeking legal advice because I refuse to let her get away with it. I feel like I owe her nothing at this point, but my family keeps guilt-tripping me, saying I'm being too harsh. Am I the bad person for refusing to let my kids see my mother and not just moving on like my family wants me to? Can't wrap my head around that story. What do you think? Who is in the wrong there? Let us know down in the comments section, and let's move on to our last case. Case 4. Am I the bad person for breaking up with my boyfriend after he asked to have my friend join in? My boyfriend, 23M, and I, 19F, were showering after getting at it the other night when he randomly asked, "Would you ever let another girl join in?" I laughed, thinking he was joking, so I played along and said, with who, expecting him to say something ridiculous or to make some joke. Instead, he smiled a little and casually went, "Olivia? She's pretty and I think she'd like it." I just kind of froze for a second because I wasn't expecting that at all. At that moment, a dozen questions raced through my mind. Olivia, 18F, is one of my close friends, and she's also got to know my BF, so we all know each other. The last time we all hung out was at the beach for her birthday. I told him I wasn't comfortable with that and asked why he even thought of her specifically. He just shrugged and said he figured I'd feel more comfortable with someone we both knew, and he thought she'd say yes. I told him that I was feeling weird right then. He rolled his eyes at me and said it was just a question. I pressed him again why he wanted her specifically. He said he asked me first cause the thought popped in his mind and he wasn't expecting me to go along, but he thought it'd be a fun time. And that he then just said her name because she popped in his head and he thought it'd feel good with her and that she'd like it. He brushed me off like I'm overreacting. He said it was just a dumb hypothetical in the moment. I don't know about breaking up with him over this, but the thought did cross my mind. Am I the bad person here? Am I overreacting? You've sat down, you've listened. Now, it's time to state your ruling. What is it gonna be? Let us have it down in the comments section down below. Thank you for watching. Please like this video if you enjoyed it and subscribe for more cases like these. In life, we may run, but we can never hide from true justice. Stay safe, everyone.